Good morning, guys. It's your formerly socially anxious friend Ed Barton here from Crush Social Anxiety, and this morning I wanted to bring you along on a little road trip because from my own experience and from talking to coaching clients, I know that when you have social anxiety it can be pretty terrifying stuff. I absolutely hated it when I was driving with social anxiety, age 17, 18, 19, right up into my 20s. And I actually had a number of accidents in the car purely because of my social anxiety. Technically, I was a good driver. There was nothing wrong with my driving. But if I was ever made to be under pressure, if there was a car waiting for me to do something. There was one incident where a car was in the road and it was just sitting there waiting for me to do something. I was 17, I was in my mum's car, and I just freaked out. I got the mind blank, which you can relate to from social anxiety, from having social anxiety. I just got mind blank and I just freaked out, and I just tried to go for a space that wasn't there, and I took down half a wall, as embarrassing as that is, and just put like 500 pounds worth of damage into this little Nissan Micra. My dad was absolutely livid, but it was all because of my social anxiety. Basically, I was felt under pressure from this other driver, and I just sort of freaked out. I've also had lots of other scrapes and stuff because, when I've been reversing, people have been waiting for me in car parks, and I've just freaked out, and I've not even been checking my mirrors properly. I'm not in my head, I'm in their head. I'm worrying about them and seeing myself from their point of view. And I've just, reversed into bits of wall and stuff like that because I just wanted to get the situation over as quickly as possible. So I know just how bad it can be, and even just being on the road, you often just feel incredibly scrutinized. So that's one of the first things I wanted to talk about. When you're on the road, it's perfectly understandable that you feel very uncomfortable when you're driving with social anxiety, because if you think about it, as sufferers, even walking down the road is a massive challenge. So then if you throw in an automobile and you throw in an element of performance, and people on the roads are assholes as well, so they're scrutinizing you and you can feel very under pressure and on show. So it's quite natural if you are feeling that. And what I really found was when I'd be driving along with social anxiety, I would feel like every car coming the other way was judging me, and also the ones behind and the ones in front, but the ones coming the other way, and they would just seem like this very intimidating kind of force. Like maybe it's a big Mercedes or a BMW, and you don't see it as a car with a human in, you just see it as this like judgment, they've got money, they've got status. So the first thing that I want to talk about in dealing with driving social anxiety is to use the power of awareness, looking. And I've talked about this in other videos, and really your gaze, your awareness, looking is a huge tool when you're overcoming social anxiety. And first of all, what I want you to try is when cars are coming the other way, just look. And I use this as a pedestrian as well. When I see a line of traffic and I'm walking past them and I feel freaked out, because our natural reaction is to not look, and that's when things get worse, and that's when a social anxiety build-up begins, and which can lead to a social anxiety attack. And if you just use some careful attention, what you'll find is these intimidating, like this Range Rover coming the other way, oh, it's actually a middle-aged mum with her small son. That big van, that's just an old guy in his sort of late 50s delivering stuff. So if I look carefully at this oncoming traffic, that's just a weird taxi driver who looks like he hasn't had a wash. You start to humanize these objects. They just become normal people, and you can just see the little old lady sitting behind the wheel of the big Lexus or the big Mercedes or whatever it is, and they become less intimidating. You what's the word? You basically demystify it, So number one, use your power of awareness, look through the windscreens, see who's in the car, and you just see that it's just another human being. It's not some huge robot with a shiny windscreen that's just judging, intimidating like that. And it's also useful for pedestrians and at stoplights, okay? So obviously I don't want you to have a car accident looking at every pedestrian, but I've got people crossing the road here, I'm looking at them. Previously I would get freaked out, you know, if people look at you, your immediate reaction with social anxiety is to look away, and as I say, that's when it all builds up. So what you want to do is you actually want to look at them, and then the game changes. You turn the power back outwards towards them. So you're no longer a passive person being scrutinized. You use the power of your gaze, you look back, and it sort of sends the force field back their way. And I had one coaching client who particularly struggled with this at red lights. He felt the strong sort of force field from next door as the cars pulled up. He could sort of feel them looking at him, and he just couldn't bring himself to look. But what we discussed on our calls and what he did and what I teach is you have to try and force yourself to do that. You have to try and break this force field. It does feel like a physical force field when, you know, the dominance hierarchy in your mind is stopping you lifting your eyes up, you know, because eye contact is threatening, and it goes all the way back to our evolutionary psychology as chimpanzees and primates. As my client said, it felt totally taboo to him. It was really hard for him to break that force field, but you have to do that. That's what you have to do. You have to try and force yourself, and this can be done in a number of ways. You don't have to directly swivel your head and stare right at whoever it is, you know, whether it's the driver next to you at a stoplight or if it's the person crossing the road. You don't just have to, you can make a casual kind of gaze around, you know. You can, what I often used to do, like in a coffee shop or whatever, would be to have a gaze and a stretch and a yawn and, you know, fake it, but make it look like you're just having a stretch round, and then you're taking in your surroundings, and it's breaking that force field, and it's dispelling this myth in your head that there's people just like staring at you and judging you and all the rest of it. So the other one, and I'm going to do this right now, is slow the hell down, right? So I'm going to do like 20, it's a 30 mile an hour zone, but I'm going to do 20 mile an hour, and you might be able to see that guy behind me. He's getting pissed off right now. He's right behind me, but I'm just going to go super slow. And this is what my psychiatrist, look, this guy's getting right up my ass. He's trying to make me speed up. I'm going to go even slower just to annoy him. So I paid a psychiatrist, he's turned off. See, that's the other thing as well. You never know what they're going to do. That guy's actually turning off there. So my psychiatrist, when I was like in my mid-20s, I was 27, I went to see this guy. He used to help me, he actually walked down the street. That's how bad I was at that point. And I talked about all my problems with driving, and he said, right, in that case, you're gonna, you know, because I was driving faster and faster. I was doing 80 miles an hour because I kept checking the distance and behind me and thinking, is this okay? Is this guy happy with my driving? I need to go faster, maintain this gap. And I would always be thinking about what's going on with them. Are they happy with that distance? Oh, he hasn't closed the gap. Therefore, that means that he's probably satisfied with the way I'm driving. That's just a crazy way to drive. And it's a microcosm of how you live with social anxiety. You're always living for other people's approval and for them, and that's what's got to stop. You got to do whatever the hell you want and live on your terms and not be ruled by what you think other people want from you or whether they approve and all the rest of it. So my psychiatrist gave me some great advice. He said, you just slow down deliberately, and not just to a normal level, go to the other extreme and wind that person up and get comfortable with that other person not liking what you're doing, like I just did then. I just did 20 miles an hour in a 30 zone. Most people are doing 40. A white van man who in England are notorious for their, you know, angry driving. So push it to the other extreme. If you're used to speeding up and speeding up and speeding up, and then, you know, that's how I used to drive. I was like, fucking, I used to be absolutely racked with adrenaline the whole time. I'd be getting out of control, and then I would have crashes and scrapes and everything. And I used, you know, especially if I had people in the back, made it 10 times worse. And now I enjoy driving. I actually enjoy driving. I've managed to turn it from a torture to something which I actually enjoy. And a lot of it has been by learning to slow right down. And this is applicable to other areas of social anxiety, slowing your thoughts, slowing your speed, your speech, but doing it to a degree that is beyond normal, so you get used to just pushing the boundaries and get used to other people not being satisfied with what you're doing, and you just do whatever the hell you want to do. And it's just, you know, you don't want to drive along at a ridiculously slow speed all the time, but it's very invigorating and exhilarating at first to break that taboo of, you know, not having people like you. And from there you will learn to just drive at a much nicer, slower pace. And that's the third point. I was going to say, just try, because you'll be used to driving really fast and jerky and everything being pressurized and you needing to have a lie down for half a day once you get out of the car, because it's just so exhausting, like it was for me. Just practice making everything really smooth as well as slow. So you pull out smoothly, you apply the brakes smoothly, and you just get used to this feeling of it being much nicer. I also found buying an automatic car and a nice car, I drive a BMW now, and it just made the whole thing so much nicer than back in the days when I'd be screaming in a 1.1 litre little Nissan Micra, like, and I'd be stoned as well and have music on and thinking that's how I have to drive as a young guy, and just giving myself a nervous breakdown almost every time I got in the car. So those are 3 points. The fourth and final point I wanted to make is that try and make driving as pleasurable as possible by making the environment somewhere that you enjoy being. So as I said, you know, an automatic made my ride a lot smoother. I have leather upholstery, as you can see here. It's a comfortable car. I love driving a BMW. I'm not saying go out and spend a bunch of money on a new car, but you can do little things. Put a nice freshener in, get some sandalwood scents or something. Play music, play relaxing music, play a mindfulness tape perhaps, you know, as long as you're not going to drift off and crash your car. But you can do things to make your driving environment more pleasurable, like I say, whether that's through scents or music, or, you know, even buying yourself a coffee or a milkshake before you get in the car so that you have a little treat while you're driving. And just try and rewire the neural networks, because as I've said before, a lot of overcoming social anxiety is about neuroplasticity. It's about rewiring the brain, so that when I used to think driving, I used to think, performance, judgment, scrutiny, adrenaline, nervous breakdown almost. Now I just think smooth, you know, BMW, good ride, enjoyable, me doing whatever the hell I want to do. And even now, after all these years, I still find driving in this way a bit of a novelty, because I had so much of my life where it was unpleasurable and an ordeal, to now just do whatever I want and deliberately take ages to reverse my car into a parking space while people queue up, and just look at them and say, yeah, you're gonna wait for me while I do this. It's still enjoyable. I still find it exhilarating. It's still a rush for me. So it really is possible to change this from something that you hate to something that you actively enjoy. Like as I said, I do enjoy it, and I will even take my car out for a joyride when I've been working all day and I just want to go and let off some steam. I just take the car out for a spin. So those are the 4 points that I wanted to cover. Look, you know, use your awareness. Look through the windscreens. Look at pedestrians, but not to a dangerous level. Look at the people at stoplights next to you, if that's an issue. Turn your gaze and your attention outwards. Number 2, really, really important, slow the hell down. And this applies to all areas of your life with social anxiety as well. Your speech, your thoughts, your actions, but especially with driving. And practice, like right now, look, I'm going well under the speed limit. I got these guys behind me. They can queue up, I don't give a shit. I'm going to deliberately, I'm going to slow down further actually, just so you can see them all pile up behind me. I'm doing 30 now. Just do this, go out as an experiment, look, and make the traffic pile up behind you. I don't know if you can see that actually because of the light, but I'm doing 30, I've got a queue of traffic behind me. Just doing it for fun. You know, obviously don't cause accidents. I'm not trying to be a total idiot, I'm just proving a point here. But yeah, do that. Make people wait for you. Drive slower as an experiment, just to get used to people not approving of what you're doing. Number 3, try and make everything smoother, so that, you know, you pull out, you stop, just your driving generally becomes smoother, so that it's not a frantic cortisol inducing experience. It can be more smooth and enjoyable. And fourthly, try and make your driving environment more pleasurable and more comfortable. Add some scents, you know, have a treat in the car, put some music on, and try and create it as a private capsule for your enjoyment, because that's what happens when you change your mindset. Rather than feeling on show and that everybody's scrutinizing you, this can actually be a very secure little space, you know, your little living room on wheels, where you're securely encapsulated and you're listening to music or you're doing whatever you want to do. So those are some of my thoughts on driving. As you know, with all aspects of social anxiety, it is completely possible to transform things. You might hate it now, just like I did. I was a crazy, erratic, stress driver. I now really enjoy it. So I hope if you apply some of that it will be useful to you. Please let me know what you think. I would love to hear your views and everything and your opinions in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel to grow and helps us reach more people and hopefully help more people overcome their social anxiety. So that's all I've got for you right now. I'm going down to Bath in England to do a day of my psychotherapist training, and I will speak to you all really soon. Take care.